Hello, I'm Cloudy.
And this is Fred.
Welcome to Two Broke Raters, where we'll give our honest takes and opinions on games we've played for just 1 hour. We'll break down what we like.
Dislike, and where we would continue our playthrough after the first hour.
We'll also give our personal ratings out of 10.
Without further ado, let's get into this. What's up, guys? Today, Claudia and myself are going to review the first Descendant. This is a free, third-person cooperative RPG shooter due to be released sometime in summer. This will be a cross-play title on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation.
Seems like my kind of job. Wouldn't it be easier if I just froze everything?
The player and Bunny are whisked away to find an object called Iron Heart.
Iron is important, but so is retrieving it. The Vulgus also have their sights set on these ruins.
The player and Bunny attempt to capture it, however, the player decides to touch it. Upon doing so, we are somehow teleported to a new location / memory called the Unknown Space.
Cover me!
It feels like the Iron Heart is somehow calling to me. Wait, what the hell?
Upon navigating through the environment, a mysterious figure called the Guide speaks to us. We're then made aware we're a descendant.
This is a space where your unconscious takes physical form. I have been waiting for you since the beginning. I am your guide. I was created to guide the descendants to the Iron Heart.
We're then thrown out of the unknown space and back with Bunny. We're then attacked by the enemies called the Vulgus. Bunny finishes capturing the Iron Heart. We, the player, and Bunny escape the location, or so we think.
Understood, be careful.
We're then met with a fleet of Vulgus ships and a bad guy named Karel, who has Bunny laying at their feet. Karel then looks to take the Iron Heart from Bunny and then somehow triggers an anomaly. We're then met with a somewhat boss monster named Gravewalker. And Karel then looks to have escaped, leaving us with the Gravewalker to deal with. Bunny and yourself look to destroy the Gravewalker, however having to report the bad news.
There's a Grave Walker, I repeat.
And that is where our journey begins.
Descendant, be careful.
Yeah, so in terms of the gameplay, I felt that the aiming was okay. I mean, we're playing on mouse and keyboard, so I don't know what it's going to be like for console users using controllers or similar. Obviously, the usual shooter rules apply. You aim for the head, you get increased damage. Yeah, and it had that feel. It had that sort of, how can I put it? It had that Destiny feel. I know you were liking it to Warframe. I've never personally played Warframe, but obviously completing Destiny 2 before obviously all the DLC and stuff. That's what it felt to me like. It was a PvE sort of co-op game where the movement felt fluid. Yeah. What were your thoughts, Cloudy?
So I actually have to admit, Fred, it felt a lot more like Warframe-esque, like you had mentioned. Quite very similar, kind of give me that Anthem feel as well, where you were the robot back from the EA when they'd released their game as well. Very similar to that, with the different guns and the kind of modifications to damage you could attach to it. But at the moment, gameplay-wise, I mean, like what you said, mouse and keyboard, fairly responsive. One of the only downsides though is I did notice that when we did jump into one of the zones / locations when we'd first got to the actual location itself, was it the FPS seemed to drop quite dramatically. But other than that, felt fairly quite responsive. It was great that there was a different plethora of guns to choose from. All had their own somewhat unique feel.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Yeah, I noticed that as well. I mean, I saw that you could, you had 3 sort of slots, that you could have 3 different weapon types. I kind of learned that towards the end of my hour gameplay. I feel like you caught onto that maybe a little bit quicker than I did. I was trying to enhance the already sort of base guns, not really realizing that we'd been picking up guns all throughout the playthrough, really. That would be nice to sort of investigate and go back and see how much damage you could actually do, because I know at one point in the gameplay I could see you were basically one-shotting monsters and I was still there. I was doing damage, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't doing as much damage as you were. So I feel like, yeah, that was quite interesting and something to make note of. And I felt that they did do a very good job with, just so far in this hour, I feel like they did a very, very good job in sort of that sort of aspect of it, being able to choose your guns, upgrade them, customize them. I'm assuming there's got to be a plethora of more sort of things to do with that, all the customization, even for your Descendant alone as well. I thought that was quite good. And with it being a free to play, I can only imagine what more is in line for this game. In terms of the FPS drop, yeah, I did notice it as well. Of course, can we really mark it? This was a final sort of playtest. I know technically it's due to be released in summer. We're in May now. Summer is literally just around the corner, a couple of months away, but they could do something to impact that. I don't know whether it was server side or whether that was all the sort of things going on screen. What settings were you playing on when that sort of drop happened?
So I have to admit, Fred, majority of the settings were on high or ultra, I believe, on the settings would be. So, but yeah, other than that, I did try and change some to see if I could offset the impact of those FPS drops, but it seemed fairly quite drastic. So I ended up just leaving just a few settings just high, and leaving the rest on ultra because it didn't really seem to make that much of a difference. But yeah, as you said, it's a technical test, so I'm not really giving it I wouldn't really expect to impact. I wouldn't really expect that to impact our final score of this, just because.
Yeah, we don't know what it's going to actually be like on release. Yeah,
exactly.
I agree. In terms of what I tried, for me it defaulted to ultra all throughout until we got to that point. It felt like a solid, I was getting maybe 60-75 FPS. It felt really smooth and solid. What I did was I dropped pretty much everything apart from, is it the view distance or something, down to high. Left that as ultra, and it seemed to help a little bit. It did seem to, it was playable after that. It was good. So yeah, I can't really, as I say, I can't really mark too many points off of that for that, just because we don't know what the final release is going to be like.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I don't know if you've had a chance to look. The recommended sort of requirements or PC specs for this game aren't too laborious, and I believe we both have specs well above specs well above the recommended requirements. But yeah, I feel like it can only get better. I don't see it getting worse. If it does get worse, then there's a problem there.
What do you think about the skills as well? What was your? Because I noticed you weren't using. We didn't both decide to use the same character, so I ended up using the kind of tank slash melee kind of guy named as Ajax. How about yourself?
Yeah,
What do you think of your character?
Yeah, I went for a character called Viessa, I believe it might be pronounced. She seemed to be some sort of Frost Queen. Is that all I can really elaborate to that? She's she could shoot frost shards at people, which was quite cool. All the sort of like lower minion mobs, they got one hit with that, and it was sort of, it did sort of nearby damage. So you'd aim it at one target, and it'd sort of maybe kill 2 or 3 that were next to it. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Towards the end, I believe we got to a stage where we unlocked all the abilities, but I was still just using the frost shards, the Q ability. I felt it was yeah, really good. What about your abilities? What did Ajax have?
Yeah, so it seemed like I actually the class itself ended up having kind of like a shield that just it would absorb X amount of damage. I don't really know the specifics of it, but other than having a shield, I had a kind of like a leap or a slam AoE effect that seemed to do quite a bit of damage. And then my V was a kind of, again, another AoE that went, I suppose you could say, in a spherical or just generally around myself. And then my ultimate ability, which I think is, ended up just creating a whole entire bubble just around you again, which possibly might have just been for a duration, or it could be X amount of bullets that seem to just sponge, again, bullets or ranged fire. But yeah, other than that, it was pretty fun to use. It's always good just to know that you don't have to run behind cover in this game. I could always just put one down, so definitely changes playstyle.
Yeah, that's a good aspect of that, because when you mentioning cover, I did at times look for your shield and
Yeah,
sort of
I
like
saw
shoot
that.
from through the shield and behind the shield. So I mean, they've said it themselves, it's a co-op RPG shooter. Now I can see where in the future or in more difficult boss fights that team composition might actually play a big factor in this. You know, you'll have your tank or whatever you may call it in other games that will put down a shield, and then you have your DPS or your mages shooting from throughout the cover. And I feel like that's going to lead to some, well, hopefully, touch wood, to some longevity and some good gameplay, and for sort of like the missions to come. Obviously we didn't experience many missions. We just did the first maybe 1 or 2 handful, which we'll show some footage of. But yeah, it seems like the basics are there for a decent game, and with it being free to play, it's pretty impressive, the level of quality within not just the graphics but the gunplay, the mechanics, and the cutscenes. Really, I don't know what you thought about the cutscenes, but I was very impressed by the cutscenes, to be honest with you. I thought they were well done at 30 FPS and very high quality.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we can't expect much action to happen in 30 FPS, but that's fine. I mean, detail-wise, and whatnot looks fine. For nowadays, there's nothing that seems really badly done. It seemed all quite nice, quite detailed enough for the eye. Nothing for, I know for myself, to either kind of have to look at and go, oh, wonder what that is. So yeah, no, graphics wise, it's perfectly fine. Pretty happy with it for the time being. Yeah. I don't really know what else to say about that, actually.
No. I know you did mention a good point about the way the weapons sounded. I personally didn't notice. We play loads of games, don't we, Clouds? We play loads of games that sort of the Tarkovs and the CSs and stuff like that, where we kind of can identify what's being shot at us by the sound of the guns. And you know, for instance, if an M4 goes off, we know exactly that it's an M4 in certain games. I didn't really notice that, but you did mention that at the time we were playing. You did mention that you felt the the guns were punchy enough. The sound of the
You
bullets and
definitely
stuff were
tell
punchy
what
enough.
you were shooting at some points. Like, I know you didn't get to play with the guns that much, but in this you could definitely tell when you had the assault rifle, the hand cannon, or the sniper and the shotgun. You could definitely feel it in the kind of reloads and the slowness of the guns themselves. But again, I mean, the trade-offs for that is when you hit those headshots and those crucial shots, it feels with the sound and the reload speed, you can feel almost like the weight behind the animations and how the guns actually, I would possibly say, to feel.
Yeah, which well maybe me not really taking notice of that is testament to how seamless that was, then how natural. Because you saying that, I actually do think that, but like I do see what you're saying, because I do get that satisfaction just like replaying it back in my head of doing those things and thinking, yeah, that was a headshot, or that was a solid shot with the battle rifle or whatever, or the assault rifle. So yeah, you obviously noticing that, and me sort of not noticing that is maybe good testament to how good or how acceptable. I don't know if we can say it's very good, but how at least acceptable it
Yeah,
is
exactly. Yeah,
of the
designed
sound
in
design.
a kind of gunplay mechanics, like they haven't just given everyone a default kind of fire animation with the reload animation. It's definitely, there's some sort of thought there. Who knows? Maybe further down the line there might be some more kind of adjustments to it. But for now, yeah, nice. There's definitely some weight behind some of the guns and their animation. So yeah, no, definitely enjoyed that.
Yeah, what did you think of? We're still on the obviously same vein of sound. What did you think about the voice acting? Obviously, we played this in English, which is our native language. I believe the
Ooh.
game is Korean. Correct me if I'm wrong. What I kind of feel like between the cutscenes and even just like the missions, I feel like the voice acting wasn't too bad. I feel like
Yeah,
it was pretty
I have to
good.
admit the voice acting was definitely on par. There was nothing that seemed out of the ordinary so far in the first hour. I don't know what happens after that, but
Well, that's true. We weren't introduced to many characters. We got to see what the guide,
and
Bunny,
yep.
Alpha, and there was some guy that we kept speaking to us about. Uh, basically the narrator sort of sorts to tell us to go see the Alpha and go link up with Bunny and stuff. So I don't think we met that character in person, but yeah, at least the voices seemed pretty clear and well
Yeah,
acted
100%. Yeah, there's
in my
nothing that's out of
opinion.
the ordinary, nothing that's really off-putting, which is always good to see. Because I think with a lot of these free-to-play games, they seem to be almost, people would refer to it as maybe like a cash grab or something. But this has got definitely some solid
Correct.
foundations to at least work off. I mean, it reminds me quite a lot of the early Warframe days, or I don't know if many people played it, but the Anthem as well, with the robots, and you were going around modifications for guns, drops of guns, but sadly that ended up being falling through. But hopefully the first Descendant can kind of maybe see if there's anything that's worth picking there and kind of using it up. Like the gun system was quite cool. Yeah.
Yeah. If I had to put you on the spot, figuratively, gun to your head, out of 10, what would you rate this title so far? Just the hour. Obviously, we can't. These ratings are literally just based off an hour's gameplay.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah.
So with
What
that in
would you give it
mind
for the
and
first hour?
kind of me being brutal, or as I am usually, I definitely want to have a look at this or play this a little bit longer to see what the future holds. And for me, that the marker for that would be, it has to at least be maybe a 5+. But in this case, I'd easily give this game maybe a 6 or a 7, just because it seems fairly quite unique at the moment. Reminds me a lot of the, again, like I said earlier, reminds me a lot of the Warframe days. So it'd be really cool to find out what each character's unique powers are and how you can, I suppose you could say, destroy the game in some ways. Same with you though, Fred. What would you think? What would be your thoughts or final ratings on the game? Would you be inclined to possibly play again, or what would be your final score for the game as well?
Descendant, Alpha
Um,
Research arrived.
without sounding like I'm copying you, it would be round about the 7 mark. There would be, as you say, we would have to play a lot more to see how it balances out and the longevity of it. Even the story, because the story seemed quite interesting initially, but it's whether it can actually hold that. With it being a free-to-play game, only time will tell. But yeah, I would give it a 7 out of 10, and I definitely would go back to this game, especially on release, see how far it's come, and to see what they do with the monetization structure. Hopefully it's not pay to win. I don't see it being pay to win, just purely because it's a PvE rather than a PvP. But if they were to implement PvP aspects, then they'd have to find some sort of way of balancing it, depending on what sort of things you can actually purchase within the game. This has been 2 Bro Creators and our brief thoughts on the first Descendant. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. See you next time.